Hello, everyone. How's it going? This is Evgeny from Day One Careers, and this is our weekly free Amazon interview coaching here on the Day One Careers YouTube channel. So, folks, Gigi today isn't available, so it's just going to be me, but I'm here with you guys for the whole hour to answer all of your questions about behavioral interviews at Amazon. So, here's a short intro about us, about Day One Careers, about what you can expect from our session today. But while I'm talking, it would be great if you could tell me, guys, if you can hear me and see me, because sometimes we've got various issues with audio. So if it's not just my lips moving on the screen, but you can hear the audio and everything's fine, just type it in the comment section and just let me know that we can hear you properly. Well, I'm gonna take you guys through a little intro. So essentially, if you guys are here, you probably would have been watching our YouTube videos. You might have read something on our blog, and you will know that Gigi and myself, we are former Amazonians. We used to be senior marketers within Amazon. We were hiring managers, interviewers, amongst a whole bunch of other things. And then both Gigi and myself, at some point in time, we realized that um, during our extensive interviewing practice that you can have a candidate with the best functional resume possible and a great functional fit to the role into Amazon, but they would not be able to pass through the loop because on the behavioral side, the interviewing skills simply weren't there for various different reasons. And so what I started doing is I started actually giving candidates a little bit of coaching between the first phone screen and the second phone screen, which was a bit cheeky, was a bit out of process, but I wanted to validate a hypothesis that I had, which is, are these skills coachable? Can you help a candidate who otherwise, all other things constant, would have a great functional resume, but just needs help to understand what is it that Amazon is looking for when it comes to behavioral interviews, and see if that improves results. And this is how I actually thought, well, wow, these skills are actually coachable. So I started helping folks on the side. When I moved to Apple, I started helping folks on the side through the side gig. So Day One Careers was first a side gig while I was finishing up with Apple, and then I found Gigi, who was running a similar business, and we thought that actually we're probably, without overinflating our value, we're probably the most reputable folks in this area, as one of our clients called us. And so we decided to merge our businesses together under a Day One Careers, and so here we are. So you guys will know that we provide a whole bunch of free content, our YouTube channel, our blog. And there's a whole bunch of other freebies that I will talk you through at the end of the session. So stay put for those. We also provide outstanding suite of paid preparation resources, which we call Amazon Interview Success System, that gives you both the course element and the AI practice element together, which we're insanely proud of, and it's really helping folks get results. But these weekly sessions are all for you folks. Any questions that you have about behavioral interviews at Amazon, I'm here to answer. So how is this going to work? Very simply, the same chat box through which some of you told me that the audio is okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks for that. Just post your questions there. Be mindful of a couple of things. First, that chat box doesn't take very long questions. So if you have a long question with a lot of context, just split it into a multi-part question and tell me which part is which, and I'm going to make sure that I will scroll down in my feed and I'm going to locate all the parts of your questions, and I will be able to answer it. So that's one bit of housekeeping. The other bit of housekeeping is that keep it to all things behavioral interviews, because as you will know, or as you might know, Amazon has literally hundreds of various different job families. It's a big company. So if you're interviewing for a data center construction manager role, unfortunately, neither Gigi, if she was here, nor myself, we wouldn't be able to help you with the functional part of the interview. But because the behavioral part of all interviews at Amazon is more or less unified, then this is where we can really help you. So just post your question into the chat box. I'm going to bring your question on the screen, and hopefully, if it is within my sphere of competence, then I'll be able to respond. So I can see that we're live on YouTube. I can see that we are live on LinkedIn as well, and I see some questions coming through on from LinkedIn too, which I'm going to also bring up here. And I think my X account is it might be live as well, which is odd because it wasn't working previously. But keep those questions going through the chat boxes, through the comments on the LinkedIn stream, and I'm going to be putting them on the screen, and I'm going to try to answer all of them. So without further delay, let's go and let's take the first question. So this one is coming from Jose Luis, and this is from LinkedIn. And the question is how to be assertive. What is an excellent example for the interviewer? So, Jose Luis, I'm not entirely sure why you are thinking about examples that demonstrate you being assertive, because behavioral interviews at Amazon are entirely based on the Amazon's culture code, which is the 16 leadership principles, and I haven't seen a single leadership principle that says is that leaders are assertive. There is one leadership principle that is called have backbone, disagree, and commit, where indeed, as part of the behaviors of the set of behaviors that I expected, you might think that actually being assertive is useful, but the LP isn't in itself about being assertive. The LP is about standing up for what you believe is right and using passion and, I guess, data, because it's Amazon. You need to have data at Amazon to fight your case, to push your case forward in case you think that the business is about to make a bad decision, for example. So that's basically it. But do please clarify where this whole being assertive thing is coming from, and maybe I'll be able to add more value to your question. So thank you for asking. Let's keep going. So the next question here is from CI. I'm assuming it's a C. So what if I can't remember a scenario? What do I say? So there's two possible options here. Either you have a scenario but you don't remember it, or you don't have a scenario, and that's why it's not that you don't remember it, you just don't have one, so you haven't got anything to respond to. And the way that you behave and the way that you handle these situations is different. So generally speaking, in order to maximize your chances to recall a scenario, there's a lot of things that you can do before you get to an interview. And that's why you prepare. That's why we always advocate take your time to prepare. It's very important to rehearse your scenarios. When you rehearse your scenarios, either with a camera, with a mirror, or with a partner or someone you can find in our community, you drill them into your short-term memory. It's very important. It's not completely necessary, and I guess it's not going to solve all your problems, because sometimes you can get very nervous in an interview, and when you get nervous, that adrenaline sometimes it serves as a memory blocker. So you just you go blank. You stare at the interviewer like the moose stares at the headlights of the car that's coming to hit it. So but in order to minimize this happening, you need to rehearse when you prepare. The second thing that you need to do, and again, I'm answering your question for everyone here, right? Because there's a lot of things that you can do before the interview. The second thing that you can do, and you should do, is you should construct proper memory aids. The thing is, at Amazon, you can, during the interview, you can have memory aids. There is no policy permitting memory aids or not permitting memory aids. From practice, I can tell you that I've used memory aids throughout all my interviews, external and internal, at Amazon. I've seen candidates use memory aids and never had a problem with it. And all of our candidates that we've worked with, they had memory aids for their interviews in one shape and form. So you need to have your stories and what we call your story bank. You need to build a story bank as in a format that lends itself, that works well as a memory aid. Use whatever works for you. Post-it notes, a whiteboard behind the screen that you will see the interviewer on, or use the AI Story Bank, which comes together with the Amazon Interview Success System, our flagship product. Whatever works for you, have a memory aid, and make sure that memory aid is searchable easily or scrollable easily, so you can find the situation that is relevant to the question. And then finally, when you come to the interview, if you've done everything that I've just mentioned, if you've rehearsed and practiced, built a story bank, organized memory aids, and then in the actual interview, despite everything you've done, you go blank and you can't remember a scenario. So there's a couple of things that you can do. Number one, always say, it's a great question. I'm just going to take some time. I'm going to take a moment to gather my thoughts. That's a great technique. It buys you time, and your brain doesn't need a lot of time. You just need, I don't know, 5-10 seconds. It will feel like hours during the interview because interview is a high stress scenario. So you're not going to need minutes to try and kind of get that recall going from your head. But 5-10 seconds of time will be often more than enough for your head to actually go, okay, fine, I remember. So take time. Second thing is write the question down. I mean, we've been telling candidates and folks who work with us and all of our coaching clients and all of our Amazon Interview Success System students, write your question down. Why? I mean, we don't write many things these days, right? We type everything. And yet there's this magical neural link between writing things down and question being uploaded into your memory, and it's very, very useful. So write the question down, underline the keywords in the question, and that way when the question goes into your short-term memory, it maximizes the chances that if you do have a story that's relevant, you'll be able to recall it. Then if you can't remember a scenario, try to see if you can volunteer something that is similar. Maybe it's not exactly what the interviewer is looking for, but maybe it's something similar. Give the interviewer a little skeleton of that story. Say something like, unfortunately, it doesn't look like I have this specific context. I can't recall one, but I do recall a situation where I blah 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 blah, and then say to them, let me just give you a quick skeleton of this, a quick outline, and you can tell me if that's going to work for you or not. And then the last one is if you're out of everything and you just completely don't have a scenario, just say, look, unfortunately, it doesn't look like I have a situation that answers this question. Do you mind asking me a different question? And then I guess you'll just have to allow the chips fall where they may. At the end of the day, folks, you do need to have the career to come to Amazon with, and no amount of preparation, no amount of coaching from us can compensate for the experience that you don't have. But hopefully with these tips and tricks, it will minimize the chances that you will blank out and completely forget a scenario that otherwise you have somewhere deep in your head or in your story bank. Okay, let's keep going. So this one is from Tron. So I've got an offer from AWS, but I'm not happy with it. The initial recruiter gave me a range, but the offer is lower than the range. How should I counter the offer? Is there any risk to countering? Right. So generally speaking, there's no risk to countering. I have never seen, and we have never seen in our entire practice after leaving Amazon and being exposed to the interview scenarios and offers from all across the world, we've never seen a case where Amazon would have walked away or rescinded an offer because a candidate was unhappy with the compensation and tried to negotiate in good faith. There have been some very strange situations during that period when Amazon was rolling back its hiring after COVID, when there were some hiring freezes and layoffs and stuff. But during the business as usual operations, which I believe are today, and if everything's fine, Amazon doesn't take offers, doesn't rescind offers, and specifically, we've never seen Amazon rescinding offers if you try to negotiate. So I'm going to say that I don't believe there is a risk in countering. In fact, Amazon in most cases will expect you to negotiate, regardless of why, because you have a very specific reason. Here, you're saying that you're not happy with the offer because the offer is below the range that was communicated to you. That's one reason. There are 55 million other reasons why you would want to negotiate your offer. In fact, our guidance to all candidates is negotiate your offer even if you're happy with it, because there is no risk to negotiating your offer in good faith. Right? I know it's a mindset that's very difficult to get to if you already have an offer that you're happy with, but you still can and should negotiate your offer. So if the reason why you're unhappy with your offer is because it's lower than the range that they gave you, then this is one of the arguments that you should put across. So the arguments that generally work in your favor when you're negotiating with Amazon and with any other companies is, one, they promised something but they didn't deliver. Number two, the offer is unfair and you have some evidence to demonstrate why the offer is unfair to you, right? And usually you do this by researching what offers have been made for similar roles and similar locations for the same level. Or if there are other factors that are making this offer less attractive to you, right? Because maybe you've got some good stuff going on elsewhere, competing offers, offers of promotion in your current place, better roles, better packages, sales bonuses, anything that paints the offer as unfair to your level of expertise, your seniority, or something that something that I guess in this case they promised it and didn't deliver, or something that is making the offer less attractive to you. All of these things are really good arguments to bring into your negotiations. So my suggestion is use all of the different factors, right? But start with what exactly they've done, and just mention it. Get them to a call, have a conversation, and get everything in writing as well. So never do talk to them on the phone, but never agree to anything on the phone, and always be in writing. So good luck with that. But for me, that's actually one of the more straightforward cases of negotiating your offers, because clearly there's a mistake on their part. Okay, so next question is, I know Amazon wants metrics. What if I'm not allowed to disclose certain metrics to show the impact of a scenario? So if you're bound by confidentiality, my recommendation is to find a way to obfuscate the actual impact while still communicating some sort of KPIs that may perhaps not be the actual data and the actual KPIs that you're bound to not disclose. And also mention to your interviewer that some of the numbers are completely confidential. So I can't give you any more specific guidance because I don't know exactly what you are barred from disclosing. But I'm going to give you an example that is, it's probably applicable to 99% of cases like that. And that is using percentages. Because in a lot of cases, you might be prohibited from sharing specific numbers. But things like percentage increases, percentage decreases, is something that, it's very useful to use during an interview, because it provides a benchmark that is grounded in your world rather than in the Amazon's world, right? And two, it gives you a way around various confidentiality issues. But again, I'm going to be very clear here, because I don't know specifically what you are prohibited and barred from disclosing. I can't advise you anymore. And also, obviously, none of this advice is is legal. I'm not a lawyer, so if in doubt, consult a lawyer. But I guess try to first, before you completely walk away from KPIs, see if you can obfuscate stuff in such a way that you can use percentages or other ways to demonstrate relative impact without disclosing any actual numbers. By the way, you can also do this with the names of clients. We always suggest that during your interviews, always mention, if you're in a client service role, always mention the names of your clients. And if they're confidential, obfuscate them. Like, for example, if your client was T-Mobile, then mention, well, in this case, my client was, top 5, one of the top 5 telecommunications companies in the US. Again, make sure that this isn't something that will get you in trouble, and always consult a lawyer in this case. And, we're not equipped to provide legal advice. But again, there are ways that you can consider before you just completely say, I can't tell you anything. Right, let's keep going. So, question from Sneha, and it's a multi-part, so I can see there are 2 parts here. Okay, I know that's 3 parts. That's 4 parts. OMG. Okay, Sneha. Right, let's do all of your parts of all of the questions. And while I'm responding to Sneha's question, let's keep those questions going, because I think the queue is getting a bit dried up, which is telling me that you guys are all very experienced and you really don't need us. So I can just go and have a cup of tea. So I'm a product manager with over 5 years of experience, but I interviewed at Amazon for a customer success manager role, and my application got recycled. Okay. The recruiter mentioned that I should apply for product/program manager roles, and since it is recycled, she'll try to reach out to other recruiters to see what can be done. Okay. I want to understand what other steps I should take. I want to get into product or program role at Amazon. And also, will my recycle application help? Look, so a recycle is the default state of your application. It means that something didn't work out, but essentially there are no, I guess there are no religious barriers for you to interview for other roles. So, this is to say that there's nothing that's stopping you from applying to those roles that you want. Now, in your part 1, you mentioned that you interviewed for Amazon for a customer success manager role, and you didn't get it. It's unclear to me at what stage you didn't get it. And the reason why it's important is because if you got a rejection after the loop, there is, these days more often than not, there's a cooling off period where you have to wait 12 months before you interview again, which is not a problem, because during these 12 months, you can actually get some other interesting stuff on your resume and then interview again and hopefully raise the bar at whichever level that you are interviewing for. But if it was just a phone screen, then there is no cooling off period and you can just keep applying. The only thing that I would say is keep applying for roles that are relevant to your resume, right? And it's very difficult to know why specifically you got rejected. Is it because they didn't find you senior enough, or they didn't find the functional fit to be there, or because because of some other reasons? But I would say there's nothing that's stopping you from applying to roles that are relevant to you, and getting into the product and program role at Amazon. Always ask for feedback. In a lot of cases, in fact, in most cases, Amazon will not offer you any feedback. But in case they do, you might also get some ideas in terms of why you didn't get it. Also, try to reach out proactively to folks who work at Amazon. They may not be hiring right now, but they have other program/product managers reporting into them, or to reach out to existing product and program managers at Amazon and tell them, hey, sorry for the direct approach, and do this on LinkedIn and say, look, I really want to get into Amazon. I was wondering if you could have a look at my resume and just let me know if this is at all something that that would even get me in the door, or at least get me an interview. So try to understand why is it that you had this rejection, and then see what happens. Okay, so let's keep going. Any advice for corporate counsel specifically? No advice. As I said in the beginning, I'm not sure if you were here or not. Any specific, any generic advice, I would say I have to refer you to our YouTube channel for any generic advice. But for specific functional assessments, unfortunately, we can't provide you with any advice. On the behavioral part, the advice will be exactly the same as for anyone else. Okay, let's keep going. So Is another question from C. How is the LP answer evaluated? Like metrics Amazon looks for. Um, it's evaluated subjectively, but it's evaluated subjectively by multiple people. So that's why Amazon calls these high judgment decisions, which means that there's a reason why when you interview with Amazon, there are multiple interviewers that are part of the panel. And it is evaluated on the strength of your fit to the behaviors that they expect underneath for this particular leadership principle. And then every interviewer yeah, every interviewer must analyze your responses and write up evaluation of your responses against a particular leadership principle. And we're lucky to have Gigi.
Hi. Yeah, sorry, my guests just messaged to say they were running late, so here I am.
Oh, there you go. Fantastic. So I think I've just and then in terms of metrics, I'm just finishing up answering this question, Gigi. So you can look for anything else that you're
Okay.
passionate about. But yeah, in terms of specific metrics, there aren't any specific metrics that Amazon is looking for. So everyone at Amazon is looking for roughly, are you an Amazonian? So are your behaviors matching to the leadership principle that they're testing? And are you senior enough on the role? And there's plenty of different ways that you can demonstrate your seniority. And when we talk about metrics, metrics are just important and useful, very useful to demonstrate the impact of your contributions. It's not impossible, but a lot more difficult to do it without metrics. Have you found yourself a question?
Yep,
Over
there's
to you
one
then.
there. Okay. So it's a couple of parts. So this is Sean. So you have your bar raise around on Wednesday, and you were asked, like a couple of important LPs. Okay, I'm always talking to my children about adding the word like into sentences. So you were asked a couple of important LPs. The interviewers who are going to be my future managers, senior managers, made you talk about your recent work and talk about it. Oh, oh, hang on, what happened there? What did I do? Oh no, there we go. Okay. So what if I am getting a repeated questions of LP? Okay, so Sean, you are saying to me that you've got your bar raiser round on Wednesday and you've already been through some rounds of interviewing and they've asked you some questions that are LP based and they also talked to you about your recent work. And your question is, well, what happens if you get asked the same questions? So here is our advice. You're obviously at Loop if you've got a BR round on Wednesday. So in the greatest likelihood of the situation is that you won't be asked the same questions because in a loop, all of the individual interviewers are assigned different leadership principles. Amazon has very specific questions aligned to each individual leadership principle. So you're unlikely to get exactly the same question with your bar raiser because they will have different leadership principles assigned to them than the previous interviewers. Now, where it is possible to get what you think is the same question is that there are a couple of questions through the Amazon interview question bank that sound a little bit similar. So let me just come up with an example for you. So tell me about a time where you had to influence a peer who had a different opinion to you to achieving the same objective. And that kind of sounds a little bit like tell me about a time where you disagreed with a peer on something you consider to be important for the business. Now, one of them is a earn trust question, and the other one is a have backbone, disagree, and commit question. But to the untrained ear, I was going to say I, but obviously not I, untrained ear, they sound like the same question. What do you do in that case? Well, if you genuinely think you've had exactly the same question, then it's worth saying to your interviewer, just to let you know, I think I've had this question in my previous rounds, and this is the question that they asked me. Do you still want me to answer the question you've asked me? And they'll probably say yes, because it's probably not the same question. And therefore, you answer that question. The other scenario is you may get exactly the same question that you were asked at the very beginning of your interview process. So most people will have a phone screen one and then move to loop, which is where you're at the moment. Some people will have a phone screen 1 and a phone screen 2 and then move to loop, which is where you are at the moment. And it is possible that you might get the same question in loop that you had either in phone screen 1 or phone screen 2, because the only people that are allowed to see the notes from the phone screen 1 or the phone screen 2 are the hiring manager and the bar raiser. So it is possible that someone who is not the hiring manager or the bar raiser at Loop may be assigned the same leadership principles as the people who interviewed you in phone screen 1 and phone screen 2, and they have not seen those notes, and therefore they don't know that you've been asked that question previously. So if that happens, once again, you should say to your interviewer, just to let you know, I was asked this exact question in my first phone screen. Do you want me to share the story with you that I shared with them in answer to that question? And then it's up to them to say, yes, please share with me the same story, or to say, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know. And then I'll ask you a different question. And so it goes. That's it. Anything to add to that, Yevgeny?
No, no, nothing to add. All good. And I guess we're coming to this amazing time in our session, which we call the entertainment time, also known as like the stream time. And basically, this is what it is, folks. You will see that Gigi and I are working our backs off to provide a ton of free content to you guys, which is something that is useful to you, but it is useful to other candidates, because you'd be surprised how many folks come to us with failed interviews, and when we start working with them in coaching sessions and supporting their learning journey when they buy our courses and products, we discover that actually they followed someone else's advice that they discovered on YouTube or somewhere else on the internet, and that advice completely set them up for failure. So we want to make sure that the most authoritative advice, which we believe is ours, which is free, we're offering it for free to everyone, is available to as many people as possible. And in order for that to happen, we need YouTube to recommend our videos. So help us by liking this stream. It's gonna take you 1 second. It's not gonna cost you anything. Like the stream, and if you can, give us a comment underneath the stream, and then YouTube will show it to 10 more people thereabouts. And to entertain you while you're doing it, we're going to play you a little video which our amazing multi-talented Gigi had put together. So this one is really cool. I actually it might be that this video is a tiny bit loud. In case it is, and you have headphones, just pop them off a little bit, or if you're have your sound going through your speakers, just decrease the volume of your speakers. And then by the time the video ends, we're going to see how many likes you guys have given us, and then I guess Miss Gigi will have a word with those who didn't. Anyway, so here you go. Let's get some
Let's
entertainment
go.
in.
Go.
Please like the stream now. Please like the stream now. Please like the stream now. Please like the stream. 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 Like the stream.
I love that soprano. It's just absolutely amazing.
I'm very proud of that soprano myself. 2 extra likes, folks. Come on, like the stream. We're putting in the time here for you. Please do give us a little bit of a in return. That would be great. Oh, we're up another one. Okay, keep going, please, everybody. Just a few more likes, and that would really make the difference to a whole bunch of other people. Don't gatekeep. That's not cool, and it's not clever, as my parents used to say to me when I was a kid.
Hey, these things are still valid, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So, well, let's see. I think it's my turn, right? So,
Yeah.
let's get this one. So, I think it's from Happy Coloring. Hey, as far as the nicknames are concerned, this is for me that wins today.
Yeah,
Okay.
is that like the best name that we've got so far today?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Right. So, Gigi, I don't know if we've actually answered this, right? Because it seems like similar to the question that was asked before, which is it okay to use the same situation-based answer for different questions? I think you've covered it, no?
No, I talked about if you've got a repeat question as
Oh, okay,
opposed
fine.
to can you use the same situation for different answers. So I think this is about situation versus story.
Yeah. And that is and that is something that we get asked a lot. So essentially the way that we think about these things, and again, if if you're if you've got any of our paid products, this is exactly what we will teach you there, is that there's a situation and then there's a story, right? And I know that when you read the official preparation guides from Amazon, they talk about situations, but actually situations is the stuff that happens in real life. And what you tell during an interview is a story that approximates and summarizes that situation. In many cases, situations are a lot richer than the stories that you tell about them, because let's face it, you don't just wake up one day thinking today is going to be a customer obsession day, and tomorrow this one looks like a deliver results day for sure. So I'm not going to do anything other than demonstrate those behaviors that map with deliver results. So you might find some situations that actually, depending on what you focus in a story, you can milk them, you can extract more than one story. If you do that, it's absolutely fine. We have two bits of advice for you. Number one, don't do it too often, right? So if you have, for example, one situation that you think can lend itself to, let's say, two stories, keep it at that. Keep it at two stories. Don't kind of keep on milking it for more than two stories, unless it's one of them really long projects, the projects that have milestones and milestones and milestones, in which case it's fine. You can introduce all of your stories with the same context, that they all happened as part of this large project, but then kind of like zoom in on a particular situation at that milestone, right? So don't overdo it. And then the second one is, when you are doing it, just make sure that the actions part of your stories that link to the same situation, that they're different. You need to sell different behaviors for different leadership principles. Avoid the scenario where you constructed a story for dive deep and you want to tell it for ownership, and you just keep telling a dive deep story about analytics and other things, right? That doesn't work. So make sure you refocus it, but otherwise, go for it. Anything you'd add, Gigi?
Nope. Nothing to add. And actually, I think the next question is kind of the same, in the same vein, but should we pop Sophia up
Mhm.
here and just maybe give a demo of what we mean by this? So, Sophia, is it acceptable to reuse stories with interviewers on the loop, or should I work to have new examples for each interviewer? All right, so I'm going to blend a couple of different things, bringing in what Evgeny was saying a minute ago to happy coloring and expand on it a little bit. So, is it okay, or is it acceptable to reuse stories with interviewers on the loop? Yes, it is acceptable. There is no rule anywhere that says you cannot do that. However, our North Star advice is always going to be, if you can come up with brand new, strong stories every single time you meet a new interviewer, that's just going to put you in a stronger position, because what it demonstrates is that you are an individual that consistently operates at a high level. And that's why you're able to just bring out story after story after story, never having to repeat the same situation again. That's not realistic for the vast majority of people. So then we go to, well, okay, if I'm going to need to repeat certain situations because I don't have enough high performing situations, how do I do it in such a way that it does not sound like I am just regurgitating the same thing that I already mentioned word for word exactly to someone else? And this is where I bring in the point that Yevgeny made a minute ago or a few seconds ago around the difference between a situation and a story. So if you imagine a situation is, let's just imagine this is a process flow or a hierarchy. You have your situation at the top of your hierarchy, but you can then turn that situation into different stories, multiple different stories in this particular instance. But to do that and to make sure it does not sound like you are simply saying this exactly the same thing again, you have to focus in on different aspects of that situation as the core of the story that you are about to tell about that situation. So, an illustration might be, if I like to use this example, it's really simple for everyone to get their heads around. So, if we imagine that we were account manager for the Amazon ads team, and our situation is that a customer has just come to us ranting and raving because they're deeply dissatisfied by the performance of a campaign that I, as the ad manager, have sold them because it has massively underdelivered in terms of impressions that I had promised them. I could turn that one situation into two different stories. One story, I could lean very heavily into dive deep, and I could be explaining to my interviewer everything that I did to analyze and data discover why this campaign significantly underdelivered compared to my expectations. And that's a dive deep story. What systems did I look at? What data did I uncover? What data did that lead me to other metrics to look at until I have gone through all of the layers and I can then tell my interviewer that I discovered the root cause. Now, a completely different version of that situation and therefore a fresh story could be one where I focus on earned trust. So, this trust has been broken with this customer because I have failed to deliver what I promised. So, I could have a completely different story that maybe mentions that I spend some time going away and digging into the data, but focuses much more on rebuilding the trust with the customer, asking them to meet with me and give me their feedback and talk to me and share with me how they're feeling. Me respectfully demonstrating that appreciate their feedback and I understand their position, so on and so forth. So what you can do is create two very different sounding stories from exactly the same situation. To Evgeny's point, you don't want to do that too often, but that's at least how you get away with repurposing one situation by not actually telling the same story twice. Does that work, Evgeny?
That works perfectly fine. All right, let's keep going. So, here's a question. So I'm skipping Sean's reflections because I think you've answered this question.
Hmm.
But if you want to bring it back, feel free after me. Okay, so here is the one from Kumaresh. Is it possible to get multiple questions from the same LP from the interviewer? Yes. In fact, that's the most probable scenario.
Hmm.
You're going to have two questions, maybe more, depending on the seniority of your role and the complexity and length of your stories. That's a cop out. I'm just going to take part two. Um, if not, how many LPs a single interviewer will be getting assigned to? So every interviewer will be assigned in a non-technical interview scenario. There will be two leadership principles. If it's a mixed round with some tech and non-tech elements, there could be just one LP. It's also possible. But let's say it's a non-technical role, then it's two per interviewer, and then there will be 2 to 3 roughly questions per LP. Anything you'd add, Gigi?
No, no, that's exactly right. Okay, so I'm going to pick up this one here. So, as a person coming from a non-tech background for a SDE role, can I use stories from there? Okay, cool. So, folks, if you don't know SDE, software development engineer, so CI is making a career pivot, which is very exciting and very impressive because I'm not sure I would be able to do that. Not that I'm the benchmark for all things genius, but nonetheless, respect to you.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on now.
Anyway, moving on swiftly. Right. Actually, absolutely, you can use these non tech examples because the whole point of the leadership principle questions is not really to test your functional expertise, it's to test your what we'll call cultural fit. Now, I hate that term for many different reasons, which I won't go into right now, but let's just say the leadership principles are a proxy for the concept of culture. So it makes no difference whatsoever if you lean into situations, should I say, if you lean into situations from your career where you were not in a software development engineering role because it is as plausible to be able to talk about the Amazon leadership principles in non-tech kind of context as it is in a tech context. That's why the leadership principles are so awesome because they're completely job family, kind of a functional agnostic. So yes, you can. And I think the other thing I would say is they've seen your resume. They know you're not from an SDE background. So they're not going to expect an extensive number of answers that are coming from an SDE career history because they know you don't have one. So I think fait accompli, everyone who's interviewing you, if they've read your resume or CV, depending on where you are in the world, they're going to assume that you're not going to use stories that have a dev background context to them. Okay. Anything you'd add, Yevgeny?
Nope. Nope. All good.
Okay.
So here's a question from Florent. What does being put on the bench mean after passing the loop? Can I not get an offer if I stay there for a longer period? Do you know the answer to this? I think it's just
Yes, I
you're waiting for an
believe.
offer to be made or for a
Well,
team.
I believe this is a specific reference to the ops organization because they are the only organization that specifically uses a benching process. Um, it's unique to them. So, what it means in terms of putting you on the bench when it comes to ops is what the ops teams do is they try and recruit ahead of the role openings because they can't afford to have open headcount in the fulfillment centers and the distribution centers. Everything would just fall apart. So they try and recruit ahead of the requirements. So what then happens is people then are considered to be raising the bar. The team will decide they would like to bring you into Amazon. And sometimes there is not an immediate opening available for you. So either that's because you're only interested in working in a specific area, or even if you're thinking more widely about the areas that you're interested in, it just so happens there are not roles available in a broader set of areas. So you're put on the bench. What that means is your offer is good for another 6 months. Now, that offer is only valid for exactly the same level and exactly the same role, but effectively any role that comes up at that level in the next 6 months, you are effectively a shoe in for. And what that team will be constantly doing is when roles become vacant, reviewing who's on the bench and what you said you are open to on that bench and taking a view as to whether you would then fit that role. Can you get an offer if you stay there for a longer period? Yes, because actually the length of time you spend on the bench is irrelevant in terms of any reflection on you. It's a reflection on the requirements of the business. So you are no less appealing as an individual if you've been on the bench for 5.5 months than you are if you've been on the bench for 2 weeks. What I would say is, and I've worked with a number of people who got benched and then were waiting for roles to come up, keep being proactive with your recruiter. Don't just sit on the bench. I understand it's a metaphor here, but don't just sit on the bench. Keep contacting your recruiter and just reminding them that you are still available and that you are still keen to work for Amazon. Obviously, it is only a 6 month valid decision. So you want to make sure that as that 6 month window, I don't know how I conflated those three words, but I did. As that 6 month window starts to come into your line of sight, you don't want to have never had a catch up or at least extended an email to your recruiter to say you're still interested because there will now be other people on the bench as well. Hope that makes sense.
Make a lot of sense. Here's the next one. Is there a specific experience requirement for an L6 business analyst role? I feel my experience might be slightly less than typical candidates. Will this affect my upcoming interview? It's like a multi-part question of uncertainties, which is the first one is there a specific experience requirement for an L6 business analyst role? Yes, there is, but I don't know what it is
Well, it'll
because
be in the job description,
it'll be in the
right?
job description. It'll be in the job description.
It's the basic requirements section of the job description. So that answers that question.
Yeah, and it's also in the hiring manager's head as well, right? Then I feel my experience might be slightly less than typical candidates. I mean, let's hope not. But again, there's not. I'm not entirely sure what to say about this. And then, will this affect my upcoming interview? It may. It may not. It's hard to know. Um, if you're is it possible for a candidate that doesn't have the right experience to still interview well and get the job? It is possible. It's also possible for a candidate that has the right experience but doesn't interview well to not get the job. So all you can do is prepare your best, hope that your experience is enough for Amazon, and let the chips fall where they may, and not be concerned about things that you cannot control. All you can control is your interview preparation. So good luck. Do you want
That's
to pick the next one?
Yevgeny's favorite saying, and one which I have tried to take on into my everyday life since I met him, which is do not try to control the things that you cannot control. It's one of my life lessons from you, Yevgeny. Okay, so American Desi Dreams. Okay, right. So I have an upcoming data engineer phone interview. The recruiter asked you to focus on the leadership principles, specifically deliver results. Interesting. Should I just prep 2 stories around this topic? Is it enough? And you have a follow-up question. Your interview is rescheduled for the 3rd time due to the unavailability of the interviewer. Not sure if it will get confirmed this time, but if the position gets filled, will I even be interviewed? Okay, working from the first to the second part. So, if your recruiter has told you to specifically focus on a single leadership principle, then you have to just work on good faith and assume that they know more about what's going on behind the scenes than you do, or than Yevgeny and I do, or that anybody else who isn't involved directly with the hiring manager would know. So, my advice to my candidates is always if that's what your recruiter tells you to do it, because they have a massive skin in the game in your success and they would not intentionally do you dirty. So, yes, I would definitely focus on deliver results. Should you just prep 2 stories about this topic? Um, I'm going to assume that you're if they've told you only to focus on deliver results, that's because your interview is likely to be a split between functional and leadership principles, and that's why they're only going to have time to ask you one leadership principle because they're going to be heavily focused on functional. So you could probably get away with only having 2 stories around the topic. And particularly because deliver results kind of really only has 2 facets to it anyway. And if Yevgeny hasn't talked about facets yet, this is the way Yevgeny and I have built our kind of teaching structure around how people can learn and understand what exactly the leadership principles are all about. We've created this methodology called facets. Each leadership principle has more than one facet and maybe up to 4 facets, depending on the leadership principles. So, with a little bit of insight into our kind of educational product, deliver results only has 2 facets anyway. So if you can create a story for one and a story for another, then you're probably going to be in a good space, because any question that they ask you from the leadership principle question bank, it's going to touch one or the other of those facets. So that's my answer to that. Then your next question is, but if the position gets filled, will I even be interviewed? Probably not, but possibly yes. So the policy in theory is that as soon as as a role is filled, they stop interviewing all of the candidates, because it's just a waste of everybody's time. However, there is a little bit of wiggle room around that policy, because potentially if you're only 24 hours away from your actual interview, it's a very bad customer experience to tell someone 24 hours before their actual interview that they don't need to come to the interview. So, from a kind of a strict policy point of view, you would not get a chance to interview. With a little bit of wiggle room, potentially you might still be interviewed if you're very close to your actual interview date. But there are still hiring managers that push, and recruiters, to be fair, that push the bounds of what actually they're supposed to do. And some will still interview candidates even if they've extended an offer to another candidate already, who are already in the pipeline for an interview, because they want a little bit of an insurance policy in case that candidate that they've extended an offer to declines the offer. So, the biggest use case is probably not, and then there are marginal use cases where you still might get an interview, but that interview will effectively put you as an insurance policy to the other outcome. That makes sense, Yevgeny?
Makes total sense. So here's a question from C. I didn't add my non-tech experience in my resume as it was irrelevant to the role, and I am a new grad. So is it okay to mention it when introducing myself? I'm gonna say yes. I don't see any specific issues with you mentioning it. If I may add, if this is a very conscious thing that you're doing, which is pivoting from a non-tech background to the tech background, I think if I was hiring, if I was interviewing for someone for a role like that and I had a candidate like that, that would just underscore your motivation. to that you really want to be doing what you're interviewing to do. So I don't know. What do you think, Gigi? What would be your advice?
Okay, so I'm going to combine this a little bit with the insight that CI just gave us a little bit earlier about asking us whether it was okay to use the non-tech side of things for their interview. And I think the challenge you have now, CI, is I said they know, but you've now just told me they don't know. So as far as they're concerned, your experience is purely from a tech point of view. So now you're going to have to avoid kind of surprising them in a bad way, because now you're going to potentially you're going to introduce a whole bunch of experience that they know nothing about, was not part of your resume, and you consciously chose to remove from your resume. So I think I'm going to kind of track back a little bit on my advice earlier now that I have this context and say I think it would be fine to use it still, but you're going to need to be very careful with your balance. If you balance all of your leadership behavioral answers towards the non-tech experience that you've made no reference to at all in your resume, it just feels like a little bit of a fishy hot mess when you're just looking at it puristically from the interviewer's side of things. So by all means, still use those non-tech examples, but when you introduce those non-tech examples in your actual interview itself, you're going to have to help the interviewer understand that if they're looking at your resume, why it is that this story that you're about to share comes from a company that doesn't exist anywhere on your resume. Does that logic follow for you, Yevgeny?
Yeah, I think it's very straightforward. Do you want to pick the next one?
Yeah, okay. Also, the next one is just a thank you, so I'll do that very briefly. So, hello. So you wanted to thank us for helping everyone. You are welcome. You've watched our videos and you landed an offer last Monday for an L6. Congratulations. And I have to say, I love the profile picture. You look incredibly smart, well groomed, looking sharp there. So, congratulations. Great work. It's not an easy thing to achieve. I think we can all hold hands on that truth around getting a job at Amazon. So, massive congratulations. I'm sure you worked incredibly hard in order to achieve that. And I guess we both wish you a fantastic Amazon career. And when you start interviewing people, which you will do as an L6, make sure you send them our way. We'll be here. All right, so I'm going to pick the next one as a question then. Okay, I haven't read this one, so I hope I picked randomly well. Okay, I was asked by Amazon to share my availability for a phone screen. A day after that, I received a mail stating it was not possible to schedule the interview in any of the 5 interview slots. Okay, fair enough. So you can't coordinate diaries. So hang on, next one. I was asked to share 5 more interview slots, which I also did. Are you getting a feeling for where this is going, Yevgeny? There's a third
Yeah.
part, but I'm getting a feeling in the direction this one's going in.
Yep.
It's already the end of the second business day after I had sent my preferences, and I still haven't received any information about when my interview will be scheduled. What should I do now? Oh, okay. This isn't going where I thought it was going. I
Call the
thought you were going to tell
Ghostbusters. I
me
don't know.
I thought you were going to tell me that they yet again said that they couldn't fit any of those slots. Shreya, just keep following up. Yes, second business day after you sent just a polite email. Hey, hope you got my. Just checking that you got my email. Or this is a very internal Amazon trick, which is hi, just emailing again to get this to the top of your email inbox. Do you remember that one, Yevgeny? Everyone said just mailing again to get this back to the top of your inbox.
That's the only
So
thing that works.
I know, because honestly, you just get so many emails at Amazon. Someone might email you, and then within an hour, it's down to number 423 in your actual inbox. So you can use that as a trick, Shreya. But just be polite, follow up. Just want to check that you got my email, just lifting this up to the top of your inbox. Obviously, still super keen to interview with you and would love to be able to get some dates in the diary so I can get preparing and get organized. And that's all you can do, is just be polite. But I always say to people, you are the owner of your destiny. Do not be passive in any aspect of your job search or your actual interview process. Always be polite, always be respectful, but you must drive the bus. Don't be a passenger.
Remember these 2 life lessons, people. Only focus on the things that you can control
And
and do
don't
your life
and
better.
drive the bus.
Exactly. There you go. Should we talk about the freebies then?
Oh, is it that time already? My
It is that
tummy is
time
grumbling. I
already.
wish my guest would arrive. There's got some lovely cake inside I'm desperate for. Okay, so let's just no, that's the wrong thing. This is the right thing. Here we go. Right. So uh, in my view, Yevgeny, you're at the HTTPS side.
Yes,
So
and I'm here. Yes.
right. Okay. So, folks, I don't know if Evgeny mentioned it earlier because I was rudely late, but at the end of this URL, we have some incredible freebies. I'm sure you all think, Gigi, Evgeny, how could there be anything more incredible than the fantastic channel you have created and this amazing live session? But actually, there is even better stuff at the end of this URL. So I will spin through it quickly. So don't leave because you'll be disappointed. So, first thing at the end of this URL is what we call the Amazon Interview Tool Pack. It is basically a couple of little kind of structural tips, but more importantly, we've created a whole list of what we call plausible Amazon interview questions. Now, they are not the exact Amazon interview questions that Amazonians pick from when they meet you, because that would be breaking our contracts and we won't do that. But we know it's really helpful for people to have interview questions that they can practice with. Please don't try and create stories for every single one of these questions, because there's like 125 of them, I think. But they are very useful to practice on once you know the type of stories that you want to tell and you've got them kind of shaped broadly. Using these as practice questions will help you reshape those stories in the moment and practice reshaping them. So go and get that. We've created that list based on our own knowledge and understanding of the leadership principles. Totally free, but incredibly high quality questions, much better than dragging all sorts of nonsense out of Glassdoor or wherever else you might find random Amazon interview questions or claimed Amazon interview questions. The second thing then we offer there is a little taster course of our much broader Amazon interview success system product. It's very focused on customer obsession. Customer obsession, as you would imagine, is kind of the most common leadership principle that anybody at the Amazon is focused on. I mentioned briefly earlier the concept of facets and how we teach people to understand the leadership principle through this model of facets. If you take this taster course, you'll understand exactly what I mean. It will teach you all about customer obsession and the 4 different facets of customer obsession. It will also tell you what the interviewer is looking for in your actual answer. So this is like the best tool on the internet, I would say, to help you create the most outstanding answer that you can for customer obsession. It gives you a little bit of a flavor of what our broader digital course offers for every single one of the leadership principles. We've also got a little demo there that Yevgeny is sharing about some of our amazing AI tools. We have an incredible AI tool called the answer the AI story review tool. Oh my God, I don't know why that wouldn't come to me because I named it, but the AI story is a bit like when I can't remember my children's names and I named them too. The AI story review tool, incredible AI tool based on a ChatGPT 4 capability. Yevgeny and I have basically fed that tool all of our knowledge and insight about what an outstanding Amazon interview answer is, aligned to each individual leadership principle. And what you can do is basically drop your story into that AI story review tool, and the review tool will spit you out a PDF and give you all sorts of amazing advice as to how to optimize that story. Now, that's not a free tool, it's part of our Amazon interview success system, but you can at least have a look at it and check out the functionality. If you take out either of these things, there's one final amazing thing you have, which is access to our Heartbeat community, where you can meet other candidates who are also preparing for Amazon interview, and you can set up mock interviews with them. What it also has on that community is another AI tool that we've basically fed everything from the YouTube channel into. His name is Andy. Who knows why we named him Andy? But you can basically ask Andy anything that you like. And if that insight exists anywhere on the massive YouTube channel, Andy will then tell you that answer back. And it's a massive time saver compared to actually just trawling your way through the channel. Not that I want no one to watch the channel, because clearly I put a massive amount of effort into all of the videos, but it is an amazingly useful tool for all of you. I think that's it. I think that's the freebies done. So there's no chicken today, Evgeny, but I will go and have some cake.
Have some cake. Cake's lovely. Cake's amazing.
All right. Anything to add, Evgeny? Have I covered it all?
You've covered it all, folks.
Okay.
We're gonna see you next week. September is coming. Jobs are opening. Keep
Yeah.
at it. We're also posting the number of corporate jobs open at Amazon in America every single day. so much stuff in our community that we're just putting out for free and helping you guys out.
Yeah. And actually, if we find a job posted on LinkedIn, we then repost it inside our channel as well. So it's quite a good place to go and look for, just aggregate the type of jobs that Amazon are posting. Although obviously you can do that on the Amazon's website as well.
All right,
Okay,
folks.
we're done. Cake time. Please come back next week. If you didn't get a chance for us to answer your question, you can always ask that question on the actual YouTube channel and put a little comment in the YouTube channel, and Yevgeny and I will come back to you. Take care, folks. If you have an interview coming up, fingers crossed. Hope it goes well. Take care. Ciao.
Bye.